Hey everybody, coming to you from Frisco, Texas tonight, and we're going to be reading the book of Matthew, chapter number 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chapter number 9, and I'm here with
Brandon
And
Shannon, and my daughter Shannon, fiance Brandon, and so looking forward to sharing this part of the gospel with you and talking about that and having this conversation with these two. It's a special day for us and for a special weekend. Actually, it's been really good to see them, and so it's going to be really good to do this. So let's get started with that.
Okay.
Shannon's going to read a little bit at first.
So like he said, we're going to start with chapter 9. So Jesus forgives sins, heals a paralytic, and calls Matthew. Jesus eats with sinners, heals a woman who touches his garments, and raises Jairus' daughter to life. He opens the eyes of the blind, casts out a devil, and preaches the gospel. And he entered into a ship and passed over and came into his own city. And behold, they brought to him a man sick of the palsy, lying on a bed. And Jesus, seeing their faith, said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, be of good cheer, thy sins be forgiven thee. And behold, certain of the scribes said within themselves, This man blasphemeth. And Jesus, knowing their thoughts, said, Wherefore think ye evil in your hearts? For whether it is easier to say, Thy sins be forgiven thee, or to say, Arise and walk. But that ye may know that the Son of Man hath power on earth to forgive sins. Then saith he to the sick of the palsy, Arise, take up thy bed, and go into thine house. And he rose and departed to his house. But when the multitude saw it, they marveled and glorified God, which had given such power unto men. And as Jesus passed forth from thence, he saw a man named Matthew, sitting at the receipt of custom. And he saith unto him, Follow me. And he arose and followed him. And it came to pass, as Jesus sat at meat in the house, behold, many publicans and sinners came and sat down with him and his disciples. And when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto his disciples, Why eateth your master with publicans and sinners? But when Jesus heard that, he said unto them, They that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick.
verse 13. But go ye and learn what that meaneth. I will have mercy and not sacrifice, for I am not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. Then came to him the disciples of John, saying, Why do we and the Pharisees fast oft, but thy disciples fast not? And Jesus said unto them, Can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and then shall they fast. No man putteth a piece of new cloth unto an old garment, for that which is put in to fill up taketh from the garment, and the rent is made worse. Neither do men put new wine into old bottles, else the bottles break, and the wine runneth out, and the bottles perish, but they put new wine into new bottles, and both are preserved. While he spake these things unto them, behold, there came a certain ruler, and worshipped him, saying, My daughter is even now dead, but come and lay thy hand upon her, and she shall live. And Jesus arose and followed him, and so did his disciples. And behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him and touched the hem of his garment. For she said within herself, If I may go to touch this garment, I shall be whole. But Jesus turned to him about, and when he saw her, he said, Daughter, be of good comfort, thy faith hath made thee whole. And the woman was made whole from that hour. And when Jesus came into the ruler's house and saw the minstrels and the people making a noise, he said unto them, Give place, for the maid is not dead, but sleepeth. And they laughed him to scorn. But when the people were put forth, he went in and took her by the hand, and the maid arose. And the fame hereof went abroad into all the land.
And when Jesus departed thence, 2 blind men followed him, crying and saying, Thou Son of David, have mercy on us. And when he was come into the house, the blind men came to him. And Jesus said to them, Believe ye that I am able to do this? And they said unto him, Yea, Lord. Then touched he their eyes, saying, according to your faith, be it unto you. I thought it said, be done unto you. I'm like adding my own words here. And their eyes were opened. And Jesus straightly charged them, saying, see that no man know it. But they, when they were departed, spread abroad his fame in all that country. As they went out, behold, they brought to him a dumb man possessed with a devil. And when the devil was cast out, the dumb spake, and the multitudes marveled, saying, it was never so seen in Israel. But the Pharisees said, he casteth out devils through the prince of the devils. And Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues, and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion on them, because they fainted, and were scattered abroad as sheep having no shepherd. Then saith he unto his disciples, the harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he will send forth laborers into his harvest. So much good stuff inside.
I know there's
right?
a lot within
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a lot to
take in.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's one thing that you took out of it, or that you liked about that?
I think it kind of just shows, from the beginning to the end, Jesus kind of, out helping others, healing them, and, before he even heals people, he asks them if they, believe that it can be done. And, them, even before seeing it take place, they all say, yes, they do. And, as we all know, Jesus heals them. So it's pretty powerful that, kind of even today, seeing, without seeing, you have to believe.
Yeah, I was going to say that it kind of just continues to, as he, obviously these are a lot of key pieces of such important things that, going around and healing people and touching people, and shows how the importance of faith, at the end of the day. And it's like, just kind of reassuring and showing these people all around that, I don't know.
Yeah, what's possible.
And there was, what was that? I like this line, one of the last ones actually. What are your thoughts on that? Like, as far as the meaning behind that? Like,
about the 37?
It's almost like the harvest is, there's so much that God can give you. There's so much, to...
I think what he's talking about there, as it says, then saith he unto his disciples, the harvest is truly plenteous. Well, and right before it just talks about how that the multitudes, he saw like a multitude of people that really were like seeking the truth, right?
Yeah.
Who wanted to learn more about the gospel, and yet there were only a few. There were only a few of them. There was 12 of them, and there wasn't even 12 of them at that time, because he just selected Matthew.
Yeah.
Right, so he had Peter and Andrew and James and John, and now he had Matthew. So he's really only selected 5 people on the team right now, right? So the laborers are few, and that's who we can be the laborers ourselves, and it's basically spreading the gospel in our own way, or hopefully that we're so engaged in it or so involved in it that people see the light in us and they're like. I remember when I used to go to work at the dealership, people used to see me in the morning. Man, I don't want to pat my back and be like, I'm like this guy or whatever, but, because I'm still in a sinner boat, right? And I think we all are. But, people would see me, and I was like so much happier because of the way that I was growing closer to the Lord. And people would see me and they'd be like, why are you so happy? Right? Like in the morning, they're like all groggy and lethargic. I mean, they thought I was on drugs, and I would say, like they would say, "What do you want?" And I would say, "Jesus," and they're like, "No, you're on more than Jesus." I'm like, "No, man, I'm telling you, that's what it is." But I think when people see that light, they have a choice. Like they can find out why, and then they want it. But if you notice,
it's contagious.
Yeah, what you said earlier was that he always asked the people like beforehand, if it's something that they believed he was capable of, right? And so a lot of times, when we go out, we want to help people. I remember one time there was a homeless man beside my friend Frank's house, And the guy was sitting there with a shopping cart, right? And we were going out to eat dinner at this, it wasn't like a super high-line Brazilian restaurant, but it was the food inside the place was like off the hook, right? Really good. And so when I was there, I was thinking about that guy that was outside with the shopping cart, right? And I was like, here we are, we're like eating this food, right? And enjoying it, having a good time, we're laughing, talking about things. And I was like, let me get this guy some food too.
Yeah.
Right? So I was like, I went, I got a nice like plate for him. I put it together. I bought, they say, you pick your own stuff, whatever. It's kind of like a buffet type setup.
The all you can eat.
No, it wasn't an all you can eat place. It was charging for everything you eat place, and they would weigh it and everything. So it didn't matter, whatever it was. I just wanted to give him some food, right? And so we got the food, got the bag, I got some utensils, I put it in there, and we walked back. I'm like, I hope this guy's like still there, right? And the guy he was still there. And I said, hey, we saw you when we left the house, and I was just thinking about you while we're eating, so I just wanted to get you something to eat. The guy said thank you, everything, right? And he seemed like he was appreciative, right? So we went in the house, and Frank and I I think we were watching a football game or something, and we came out like afterwards, like halftime or whatever, and the guy was gone. Right? And I was like, oh, the guy's gone, okay. And then Frank says, look over there. And like the guy had taken the bag of food that I bought him and like threw it into the street. Like he didn't even eat any of it. Like all that food was like in the street. The bag was there with the utensils and everything. The plastic bag was busted, or the container had come out. And so it makes me think of like when he asks people if they want help, right? If they believe it. And they say, yeah, really, this is something that I really want. I think that there's people out there that don't want your help or don't want our help. And, when we want to help them, maybe we should get them involved in that conversation and ask them if they want help. Otherwise, it didn't bother me that I was wasting the money, but, or the money was wasted. As much as the fact that I thought that guy was like hungry and he would want the food and then to just throw it away. I couldn't understand why he would do something like that. But whenever time I read that, I think about that guy. And, it just makes me think about more like, do we want Jesus to help us? And I think we want Jesus to help us, but does everybody want Jesus to help us? Yeah. And some people, believe it or not, they don't. Yeah. Yeah. So
they kind of turn their... and it takes time for some people to finally open their heart to it.
Yeah. One thing that stands out to me always, and it talks about healing the blind, and I think that it doesn't necessarily mean like blind people. I think it's those that can't see what he has to offer or who he is, right? And so he's doing this, and there's other people around that can actually see him do this. And they're just blinded by the fact that, whatever they're taught or the circumstances that they're in. And I learned recently, not exactly recently, but not too far long ago or too long ago, but, whatever the circumstances that we're in, if we focus on that circumstance and dwell on what's going on in that circumstance, we actually are making that our God. Right, the circumstances becomes our God instead of actually God, because we're changing our focus. Instead of focusing on God, and always when we're in a storm or whatever, and constantly they talk about that storm where he walked on the sea, or where they were the apostles were scared and they were like waking him up, hey man, save us, we're gonna die, like, and he was with them in the storm. I think that he's always with us anyway, and the more I guess we learn about him, the more we know that, and our eyes are opened. And then we could see those things happening in our lives, or see him present in our lives. So I love when they just talk about blind men, because I know, even though I've known about God and Jesus like my whole life, I really didn't know them the way I know them today. And so I too was once blind, and now I see. And I still don't see all that they have for me, or that they've done for me, even though I appreciate, I'm grateful, all that stuff. But I think there's still more for me to learn, and that's why I keep like digging back into it over and over again. Yeah,
and then more and more is revealed after certain times, and you see things that weren't necessarily like a light bulb goes off. You're like, oh, when I read that a year or so ago, nothing, totally different.
Yeah. And that's another thing that opens our eyes even further to realize, like, oh, maybe I should read more and see what else I see now that I didn't see before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this constant thing. And I was talking about that even earlier today, how, you know, we read this like stuff over and over again, and then sometimes we can't see, and maybe it just doesn't apply to us at that time,
Exactly.
you know, or we wouldn't even be able to understand it, but he just gives us that revelation later on. And I love that, you know, that he loves us enough to that we have the tools or the scriptures to read and learn and grow from, you know, for our whole lives, if we want to.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
But that was great, and we got through without cracking up or screwing up, or, you know. But
We got serious.
yeah, it's a really nice thing to talk about with your family, with your friends. If you want to post a comment below in the section below, or hit the subscribe button and follow along as we continue to read the book of Matthew with others along the way. That would be great. I'd love to see your questions, answer your questions, or even see what your thoughts were about Matthew chapter 9. But from Frisco, Texas, we're signing off. Hope you have a great night. Keep reading.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.